and it will show you the external. Okay? I'm going to cancel, cancel. And then I'm going to take the point here. Let's see if I can grab that. Let's use my point selection tool here. Grab that point. Hold down Control so I can grab another point. And I'm going to make those coincident. It should have updated. Why did it not? I think I just hit cancel. Try that again. Coincident. Press OK. Hop out of Sketch. There we go.
Hey,
that's not quite the one I wanted. I'm going to go back in and I'm going to constrain the other point real quick here. There we go. Hop out of Sketcher. And for my car, I'm going to say this datum plane here, I'm going to have that represent the very front of my car.
What was your name again?
Josh.
Josh? Sorry, Josh.
I'm offended.
If you click on the product tree, it changes your controls, your mouse controls, so that when you scroll and stuff like that, it just moves the
part tree
around.
Yeah.
How do you
get out of it?
Yeah.
Okay, if you guys want to manipulate your part tree,
all the time.
All you have to do is click on the part tree and it'll make your colors dim, and you can move your part tree. If you just click on the part tree again, it'll give you back control of your model. So when you click back on the little white portion, it should make it so that, so if I deselect this, it's white. If I click on it, it's dim. So that means I'm just controlling the part tree. If I click on that again, it'll turn white again. And that means I'm back in the model mode. Okay. So maybe that will be my first parameter and my first relationship. Maybe the second relationship is like I need some way to identify how tall my vehicle is. So I'm going to do it the other way around here. I'm going to create a parameter first. And I'm going to make sure I'm inside my product. So we'll create a new one. We're going to do a length, single value. We'll do new parameter. And I'm going to call this one my height. And I don't know what the typical height of an RC car is. I'm going to guess like, I don't know, 100 millimeters or something. Okay. So I'll go ahead and press apply. And I've now got a height. Okay.
So you did that you went to product and
Yep. And then I'm going to create another one. And I'm going to call this one my width. And I have no clue how wide an RC car is. I'm going to make another guess and just say it's 100 there too. So I'm going to press OK. And I should have now 3 parameters. I should have a height, a length, and a width.
Was height one of the options in the thing?
No, it's just under length.
Yeah. It's, height, length, and width are all lengths. Okay. And so you'll use length as the way of identifying that parameter. So now I'm going to come back here into my skeleton part. And I'm going to create a new sketch on the YZ plane here. And I'm just going to draw 2 lines. So I'm going to double click here on the line tool. And then I can place lines without having to reselect things over and over again. Okay, so I've got 2 lines there. Turn off my line tool. Okay. And we'll turn off my user selection filter so that I can actually select my lines. Okay. We'll go up to tools, or we'll go up to constraints. And we'll grab this one, we'll place that. We'll grab this one, place that. Double click on my dimension, right click, edit formula. Single click on product, go to renamed parameters. And this will be my width. Okay, so that's constrained now to my width. And we'll double click on this one, right click, edit formula, come up to product, go to renamed parts per parameters, we'll call this one my height. And I'm done, so I'm going to hop out of Sketcher. And now I've got 3 parameters controlling my height, my length, and my width. So that's pretty simple. But now we want to keep going. We want to define some relationships to show where basically sub-assemblies are going to meet up. And if you're inside of a sub-assembly, you want to identify relationships where parts are going to meet together. So what we're going to do when I say that is you're going to think in your head, where are these things going to match up? And you're going to need some sort of geometry to represent where that matchup is going to occur. Okay? So if this is my vehicle, and I've got 3 lines defining where this is at, this origin here is kind of my front of my car, right? And I know that's awful, but bear with me. So I've got a line here, line coming out here, and a line back here. That's the general parameters of my vehicle. Say I break my car up into sub-assemblies, and I want a sub-assembly for the front suspension, a sub-assembly for the chassis, middle portion of the vehicle, and a sub-assembly for the rear suspension. And that's all I really want to do. So there's only 3 members on my team. We broke it up into 3 sub-assemblies, and we're each going to take a sub-assembly. So I need some way of identifying where those sub-assemblies are going to meet. So maybe for the front suspension, I would want to draw a line, like right there, showing that as like where the tires and everything are going to line up. So like maybe there's front suspension there, something like that, and there's a little shock tower. Maybe that's where it's going to line up. So I'll do it here on the CAD system for those who are going to be coming in later to this thing. Okay, can you guys still see that okay? All right. So I'm going to create a new plane. Let me see, where's my plane tool here? Let's pull out a few of these menus. Almost there. There we go. I'm going to create a plane, and I'm going to do a reference. We'll do this one as our reference. Okay. And I'm going to offset this a formula distance away. So I'm going to go I'm going to click on product. I'm going to rename parameters, and we're going to grab length, and then say that my front suspension, where the tires are going to be, is going to be about, I don't know, 25. Well, let's see, the whole length's like 350, so maybe it's like 100 millimeters in. I have no idea. So I can just do the length times 100 millimeters divided by the original length. Okay? So that way, if my length of my vehicle changes, the ratio of where those tires is going to be stays constant. Okay? So I'm going to press OK. We're going to reverse the direction. We're going to press OK. So as I change my length, that plane should move. So now that I've got that set up, let's test it. Let's go up to Tools, go to Formula. Go make sure I'm in the product here. Go to Rename Parameters. We're going to grab the length, and we're going to change this to be 200. So if I press OK, this plane should move. There we go. So there's that. We come down here to our, where is it? Sorry, my Catia window is a little bit small. There's a measure tool down here. There it is right there, measurement. Click that. I can measure between this plane and this plane. And it tells me 57.143. Originally, it was, what? It was like 100? So I decreased my length by about half. So the length between the 2 planes is about half, which means that this thing worked, right? It moved where I wanted it to. So I'm like, sweet, it updated. So I hit Control Z to undo what I just did. Or just go up to my formula, I guess. Return the product. Oh, that's why it didn't work. So come over here, and we'll change this back to 350. Press OK. All right. So that plane is going to represent where the front suspension is going to meet up with the chassis assembly. Okay. So I thought about it. I'm like, okay, that's one relationship. So I applied some parameters to it. I've got a couple other sub-assemblies still, right? I've got my rear suspension and my chassis. I need some way of identifying where those are going to meet up. I can use a line. So if I want to, I could create another plane here. We'll do an offset from here. And we'll change this formula to be the length. We're going to multiply this one by 300 divided by 350. This will be near the rear of the vehicle. Reverse direction, press OK. I'm going to create a sketch on that plane. And we're going to draw a line like that. And it should always be on that plane, but we can still constrain it to be equal to the width. And maybe we'll want to make it so that this point and this point are a certain distance away. And maybe those should be the width divided by 2. So it's dead centered, right? And hop out now. And now we've got a line representing where the rear suspension assembly is going to meet up with the chassis. Okay? So we've defined our relationships, we've defined our parameters, we're done. That's all you need for the initial skeleton. You'll need to test that every time you create something to make sure that it moves the way you want it to. Testing is awesome because if you test now, you can check real easily to see if it's working or not. If you don't test it and start making your sub-assemblies and your parts, and then you try to morph those parts, they are going to break in ways that you don't understand. And so you're going to have to try and figure out how to get it to work the way you want it to. And so I would test it at each level while you're creating it to make sure it works the way you want it to.
Super quick, can you go back over how you did the rear axle?
The line itself?
Yeah.
So I created a plane that is parametrically constrained to that sketch.
Okay.
Then I just created a sketch on that plane by clicking the sketch tool.
Okay.
And then when I went into the sketch, I just drew a line regularly.
Mm-hmm.
I created a formula to constrain how long that line is. I just said it was equal to the width.
Okay.
And then I did a constraint from the center point to the end to be half the width. So this line is equally balanced on either side. So obviously this car is going to be 50 millimeters wide from the center to the edge, right? I mean, it's going to be really narrow. So these numbers aren't realistic, but as you guys start measuring your cars, you'll be able to get some real solid numbers, and you can start putting those in as you're creating your skeleton. So you don't have to wait to measure. You can just make sure that this thing is able to morph and that it's got some structure to it showing where things connect. But you don't need to have accurate numbers until you start actually measuring your cars.
Do you know anyone in your group of really smart people that knows how to do all this in SolidWorks? Because the tutorials
No.
suck, and I just learned everything I've learned right now. I spent like 5 hours trying to learn in SolidWorks and couldn't do it.
Yeah, I don't think anybody in my group knows how to do it. The closest I could think of would be Inventor.
Yeah, I've used
And
Inventor.
I know how to do it in Inventor, but I don't know how to do it in
too.
SolidWorks.
Okay.
Okay, so
Thanks anyways.
there's our skeleton. Awesome. We're good to go there. We want to create a subassembly now. So to create a subassembly, you double click on your product. You're going to add a new product to that product. So inside the part tree, I now have a product. That I can name it whatever I want, but I can make it subassembly 1 and say this subassembly is my front end suspension. If I double click on here again and add another product, that is my chassis subassembly. And if I click on it again, let's see, click on it again, there it, whoa, product 7. That's not right. Oh, I accidentally added some extra products there that I didn't intend to. Sorry. Yes. No, that's not. There we go. Okay, so there's my front end suspension.